Alright, I stumbled on this video, which is on the Jubilee channel. It just showed up on my recommended feed or whatever. Just like the 3 reasons why rock is dying video, this is a response to the flat earthers versus scientists video. It's basically 3 flat earthers versus 3 scientists in the hopes that they can find a common ground. I'm not going to play the entire video as it's quite long, but I'll show you key clips and give my commentary. Oh, you find 3 scientists in this video, and of course all of them don't believe in a creator. And I take it millions of people who watch this are going to think that that represents all scientists. Oh, that's right, even if science is your passion and your livelihood, you're not considered enlightened enough by some elitists because, oh, people who believe in a creator are stupid. The estimate of scientists who at least believe in a higher power versus those that don't, it's around 50%. Also, it's interesting to see that one of the flat earthers admit to not believing in a higher power. And it just goes to show you that flat earth shouldn't just be thought of as a Bible-thumping fallacy. There are those who don't believe in the Bible, but they don't believe in science either.
Well, I've been a Christian for 30 years, so the Bible is a flat earth book. You have to take it literally. Like, for example, in Isaiah, when it talks about how the earth is like a clay wax seal that's stamped with upturned edges, that's just not some fancy story.
Interesting that he quotes Isaiah. What about Isaiah 45:12? Or all the other verses that describe a stretching of the heavens, which imply an expanding universe? There's actually quite a lot of verses in the Bible you could consider scientifically correct. So don't say that all the stuff about a stretching of the heavens is figurative, but then the earth being a disc with 4 corners is literal. Typical of anyone, cherry picking the parts they like, but not the parts they don't like.
There's over 200 scriptures in the Bible that point to a flat earth.
It's sort of like the God of the gaps. Once, people used to believe that lightning was God's wrath and throwing these lightning bolts, but once we understood it was a natural process. The other thing, the point about the Bible specifically for me is, why is that one particular text the correct one? You choose to believe that, and that's fine, but there's so many other writings and so many other books, so why weren't they correct?
A lot of these ancient religions they're all flat earth religions. All their cosmology goes back to being a flat earth with an enclosed system. So it's not just the Bible that teaches this, it's many different religious books.
Well, yeah, because when these religions were made, they didn't have a grasp on what they could observe. They didn't know how and why the sun rose and set, or why the moon changed phases, or why the stars moved around the way they did. Of course, they would believe they were on a stationary plane with everything moving around them. She's a West Point graduate critical thinker, and she didn't think of that? The Old Testament, especially the Torah, was meant for Hebrews to present God and creation in a way they could understand. The ancient Greeks were figuring out about the earth being a sphere after most of the Old Testament had been written.
So one problem I have is to trying to explain phenomena happening in nature by holy books. Those are religious books. Those are not books of science. And it is wrong to infer or deduct scientific readings out of those books.
I agree. The thing is, I don't use the Bible for scientific reasoning, but that doesn't mean I don't believe in it or its message. Science is about what you can prove and what you can't see, not what you believe. Some say that science makes them atheistic or agnostic, and I understand where they're coming from. But there have been some that said that learning about how things work makes them think there's a creator behind it.
The internet has played an important role in confirming my view of this topic.
That's the problem.
Well, no duh. As helpful as the internet is, it also means you can search what you want to believe. You want to find articles that claim they prove flat Earth? You'll find them. You want articles debunking flat Earth claims? You'll find them. Flat Earthers have almost no science backing their claims, but that doesn't stop them from believing some random guy on YouTube versus a person with a degree in cosmology.
I view the other side as uneducated.
I'm running.
Yeah, that sums it up.
I'm running for this.
You
That
keep
should have
going
come
back.
first.
You think that that's my foundation for why I believe the earth is flat. And I'm telling you, you're wrong.
Okay.
I have evidence that proves it's flat.
What
or
type of
proves
evidence,
it's not
yeah?
a ball.
What type
Curvature,
of?
We're being misled. We're being deliberately misled by mainstream
Now,
media.
what's your evidence? You're
We see
thinking?
too far. We see too far. We should not be able to see. I live in Dana Point.
Okay.
I can see San Clemente Island, which is 60 miles away.
The highest point of San Clemente Island is about 2,000 feet high. Sure, on super great conditions, you can see the top of the island from sea level, but not the whole thing. Pretty much every major large and tall structure on Earth from a distance is visible top first and then the bottom as you get closer to it. That kind of supports the idea of a curve blocking the bottom.
Can you see a ship which is going?
Oh yeah, let's talk about the ship that goes
Yes,
over the curvature
okay.
of the Earth. I love
So-
that. So science has said that when I see a ship go out of my field of view, it's going over the curvature of the Earth, correct?
Yes.
But then I bring my P900 up, and guess what? I can zoom it back in.
Not
So
all
is
of it,
it
though.
going over the curvature of the Earth or
can't.
not?
I hear that argument all the time over bringing a ship back in with a telescope. Flat earthers have actually said that crap to my face.
Absolutely.
Oh, not all the
you
time?
can't.
Not all the
No,
time?
no, you don't see all the ship. The bottom part of the ship
Yes.
is hidden by the
At
curvature.
that distance, you shouldn't see the top
At
of it
all.
either.
What they are trying to explain to the entitled Karen is that even if you bring it back in with a powerful enough telescope, you still see it dip below the horizon and it will eventually disappear. No matter how powerful of a telescope she can use, it will set below the horizon. With her logic, she should be able to explain why something big like the sun and moon and stars don't come back into view with a P900 after they set below the horizon. If there's no curve, there's no horizon.
It's faulty logic. It's completely faulty logic.
Entitled Karen saying that's faulty logic after being told her claims are faulty logic? Yep, that's what flat earthers do.
I've been spending a lot of time arguing with people that argue the other side. And I found that surprisingly, consensus always wins. It was shocking to me that the group with the majority has an incredible advantage.
I don't like that. There's countless scientific experiments and all this stuff that have proven observable. Oh, it's not fair that flat earth is a minority. I want to punch the guy.
But if your theory is an authentic one, and it can be go through this hardship of scientific method, eventually will win.
Bingo.
NASA is trustworthy.
That figures.
What is the proof? Hundreds and hundreds of pounds of moon rocks and dust. And we have distributed those freely to PhD scientists around the world. And not one of those geologists have said, what is this?
Been
Is this
proven to be
some-"
fake.
And also
Yes.
and collected on the ice in
No, you're
Antarctica
talking-
and
Yeah,
in the Arctic as
absolutely.
well.
There's-
Those are collected. You don't have to go to the moon to get moon rocks.
Again, this is what they do. They ask us for evidence, we present it to them, and then they just scoff and claim it's faked. That's the reason people like me don't want to engage. It just makes us go in circles like an idiot.
As a matter of fact, all U.S. Air Force photography prior to 1958 shows a flat Earth.
You have a picture of the Earth taken from a V2 in 1946 from about 60 miles up. I don't see a curve. That's because the image is small and cropped. It was actually from a video, and the video footage actually scans along the horizon and shows a curve. 12 years before NASA. And even earlier, a weather balloon reached 72,000 feet, or about 13 miles up, in 1935, clearly showing a curve from that elevation. Getting cameras that high, especially back then, wasn't easy. It's called Google, idiot. Oh, wait, what would be a typical response?
NASA's lying to you, my friend.
Yep, figures.
See, what I get from you guys is that seeing is believing. So how come you believe in God or Jesus? You haven't seen neither of them, right?
I've seen evidence, though.
Well, exactly. So we are looking for evidence. There are many, many other evidences for Earth not being flat. My point is that these experiments clearly show that the Earth is globe. And you don't need to go outside
It's a
the globe to see it's
conclusion.
globe.
It's a
You told me you
theoretical-
want the evidence. If you're
That's
saying
not-
that you look only to see something, then I dispute your belief system in God and Jesus or Jehovah or Buddha or Zarathustra or anyone.
You keep going back to religion as being
Because
our
it's coming
conclusion.
from there.
No,
You think you do have the
I
truth.
have evidence. I have evidence.
You
for
quoted
what I
at the
know.
beginning
She
of
pointed out
this.
physics.
You
I
quoted
agree.
Bible.
Of
That's
course
the
I did, but
reason.
that is not the only reason I know what the shape of the earth is, and you keep,
Well,
that's fallacy.
It's not fallacy.
It is a
Actually,
fallacy.
it is not fallacy.
It is a fallacy.
Featured scientists in this video pretty much argue that, well, I can't see a creator, so I don't believe he exists. And the flat earthers are pretty much saying, well, I believe God made the earth flat. I don't see a curve, so it must be flat. And that's what this guy is calling them out for. Science may not prove a creator, but it doesn't disprove the existence of one either. It leaves it open for you to interpret what you believe and how you believe it. Even though I'm a Christian, I side with the atheists calling out these flat earthers on their fallacies. Yeah, I do believe in a supernatural miracle, and I do believe that they can happen. Of course I do. But things like the fixed law of gravity, the physics behind the sun, the moon, the planets, stars, pretty much anything in the entire universe and the conditions that create life, they're all things that have been scientifically proven. I myself am an astrophotographer, and I get paid to show people stuff through telescopes. I'm constantly observing the sky through my telescope and taking pictures when I can. I bet you that none of these flat earthers have actually visually observed the rings of Saturn, or any planet in detail like I have. The things like the phases of Venus, which prove a heliocentric model, can easily be observed. It is indisputable proof what these planets actually are, and what they do and where they orbit. Details of the deep sky you can't see with your normal eyes are brought out with a camera, even when it's through the same telescope. Oh, it's all Photoshop. Okay, then here is a raw image I took of the Orion Nebula. I assure you there is no stacking or composites on that one. And even with your normal eyes, you can see a gas cloud around these group of stars. For those who deny science because they believe it's against the Bible, if science really affects your faith, then your faith wasn't that strong enough to begin with. That's all I got to say about this one. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this one.